July 12th, 1991. It was my second birthday, and little did I know things would never be the same, because that's also the day Boyz n the Hood came out. Our shared birthday is really the only thing Boyz n the Hood and I have in common. As a white kid from the burbs, I had no experience with the lifestyle of Trey Styles and his best friends when I first saw it. My childhood was far more like The Sandlot, Stand By Me, and a little bit of Superbad mixed in there together. But when I watched Boyz n the Hood as a grown man, having lived in Los Angeles for almost a decade, and developing friendships with people who grew up on the other side of the tracks, it made much more sense. Part of why I've spent years studying film is for the simple reason that it allows us to experience worlds we otherwise would or could never experience. Film is a catalyst for conversation, and conversation is a catalyst for change. And we can't change what we don't talk about, and racism, for a long, long time after the 60s civil rights boom, passed into relative silence. Chuck Palahniuk, the author of Fight Club, says that for young people to change the world, we must first start by influencing our culture. The way in which we do that, he says, is to model and demonstrate the kind of world you demand to live in. To write books, make music, shoot films, paint art. However, one of the major criticisms about Boyz n the Hood was that it depicted a world that demanded gang violence. The movie ended with a conflict between Crips and Bloods, and the retaliation depicted in the film sparked gang feuds on opening night that led to deaths of 2 moviegoers and 30 more injured. 21 theaters ended up pulling the film based on the fear that it would continue to set off violent outbursts, but even so, it was still the most profitable film of the year, even reaching a higher per-screen average than Terminator 2. But the question remains, does depicting this kind of raw, unflinching imitation of reality help or hurt our chances of becoming a better society? And I actually think Bill Clinton, of all people, answered this question pretty well back in '93 when he did an interview with Rolling Stone magazine. He was asked about violence on television and whether or not the government has constitutional authority to restrict what people can watch, and he responded by referencing Boyz n the Hood, saying, quote, "I do believe that the people who are making the films and the shows are just reflecting what they think the consumers want and what they think is really going on in the world. And I understand that. But because that is what is in fact going on in society, there's a synergy there that is destructive. There is a synergy, and I don't think we can avoid that fact. The best thing is for us to ask ourselves what can be done to break the link without muzzling creators. For example, I watched Boyz n the Hood very carefully. While it was very violent, it had no romance about the violence. That is a movie I would have wanted a lot of elementary age kids in the inner city to watch, because there is no romance. It was a mean, ugly, sad, heartbreaking tale of basically good kids who wanted to have a decent life who had it taken away from them. I mean, I can't say it any better than that. And in 2002, Boyz n the Hood was entered into the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress, a program that was established in 1989 as a way to preserve films deemed important enough to be kept for future generations, and they only choose 25 films each year. Overall, Boyz n the Hood taught me that the system we've created and sustained does not allow many ethnic minorities to escape a cycle of violence, poverty, abuse, and oppression. As John Singleton, the director of Boyz n the Hood, said, "We're put out on the street for a little while and given certain parameters, but by natural order and nature, our fate is predestined." That's not something I probably would have realized so early in life had I not seen this film. Part of the responsibility of film and all great art is to hold up a mirror to society so we can see who we really are, who we've really become. I look around at the world 25 years after Boyz n the Hood came out, and I don't think we've looked at our reflection quite long enough to change yet. So let's keep leaning into the discomfort, wherever we find it, and maybe run that film back one more time until we really get it. Anyway, back to Day and T.